How did you first hear of Nadia?
I remember seeing Nadia's speech in December of 2015 at the UN Security Council, and I think it was either a video on Facebook or something like that that they had shared the speech, and I remember taking notice of that and also paying attention to the genocide that started in August of 2014. But it wasn't until July of 2016 that Riot, the production company, reached out for me to make a short film about Nadia and wanted me to make that. And so I met her 2 weeks later, and after meeting her, it was very obvious that it should be a feature film to not only do justice to her story, but we were the only ones with the access that we had, and so it felt like a huge responsibility to do justice to it and bring nuance to the issue and to her story.
So Haley Pappas, who's your producer, she's the one that introduced you to Nadia in terms of making the short?
Riot gotten access to Nadia and their team through Elizabeth Schaefer-Brown, who was working with Nadia and still works with Nadia. They approached Riot and suggested some sort of collaboration, and that's when the producer of the film, Haley Pappas, reached out to me.
And so initially it was a short film. At what point did you say, oh no, this has to be a feature?
I think about a week into filming with Nadia, I realized that that couldn't be a short. Definitely wanted it to be a feature. And that was a scary thing to propose to the production company. They definitely were not interested and didn't want to make a feature. And so for the post-production, I was making it in secret. But as soon as they saw the first rough cut, and I spoke to them about the importance of it, especially to one of our executive producers, Ben Muser, had a conversation with him about why it needed to be a feature and showed him the rough cut, and then they finally got on board. But there was a scary space of time where I had no idea what was going to happen. But then after it was decided that it would be a feature, they came on board with all the financing and everything. Thankfully, we're able to do so.
So the film is so much a woman's story of, sort of like this reluctant celebrity in some ways, and very necessary for her to tell this story. But it's also an interesting look at our media. And you see the questions that are asked over and over again to Nadia, and they're very painful. Mm-hmm. Some are necessary, and some it seems like maybe they're pushing the envelope a little too much, or going too far with it, especially the sensitive nature of everything. What were some of the questions that you had to ask Nadia before you began the movie? Did she really want to go through with this? How was this to have you essentially as part of her life for this period of time?
Yeah, I went into making the film very aware and very cautious about how I gained access as a storyteller into this film, because I needed to be very cognizant of the fact that the access I was gaining with Nadia was because she felt that she needed to make the film. It was just yet another thing where it was like, yes, anything to get the word out. If you feel like a documentary will help, sure. And so that's a very strange space to be in as far as a documentary filmmaker with access, and really made me question everything that we were doing, and I was very conscious of it, not only at the beginning, but throughout filmmaking, of how that influenced the story. But in general, that conversation was very quick, and she was like, yeah, sure, let's do it. So, but I think after seeing interviews that Nadia had done and the questions that were being asked, I had no idea going in what kind of impact this telling her story over and over again would have on her. And seeing that, through a long lens, watching her and listening to her, it took a piece of her every single time. And it was very soon into the film that I really wanted to focus on not only what I was seeing, but what I was grappling with as far as a storyteller, and our sense of responsibility to the stories that we're telling, especially such traumatic stories.
I thought what was really telling too was the other people's reaction to the camera. And one scene in particular that really stuck out was, I don't know if she was in the US or Canada, she was going down an escalator and these girls were coming up and they wanted to be in the shot. And they thought, but the thing is, it's an interesting look at how we're in this new landscape where people want this sort of attention, but they probably had no idea why she was being filmed and the reasons around it. So I just thought that was such an interesting contrast of showing just the reaction to everybody, oh, who's being interviewed, but the subject matter and the reason for it are things that most people wouldn't survive even retelling twice. So I just thought that was a very interesting look at where we are right now with media and, people wanting to get their channel out or their Instagram account.
Yeah, I think Nadia saw those women on the escalator and thought it was endearing, and I think I wanted to show, a big part of showing her in scenes like getting her hair done or the shopping, it's like pulling us out and making us conscious that, this is, at the end of the day, a 23-year-old woman that is just a young woman who likes makeup and doing her hair and clothes just like the rest of us. Yeah, I just wanted people to get a sense of her personality through those images. Yeah.